Alright, I just went over the review final exam. Let me show you the work here. As you see, we have a Joanne can mow a 5-acre field and it corresponds to 3 hours. How long would it take to mow 2.5 acres? And that corresponds to X hour. So this is how I set up my proportion. I have to be consistent. 5 acres goes to 3 hours. 2.5 acres goes to 7 hours. So at this time, all I have to do is cross multiply. So if I cross multiply, then I get 5 times X equals 3 times 2.5. And 3 times 2.5 is just 7.5. And if I divide both sides by 5, 7 by 5 is 1. Bring down the decimal, 25 by 5, and this would be 1.5 hours. That's how I got this answer. On number 2, I have to do the second problem here. And I have also 70 ounces of grass. So I can do the same thing here. Use the proportion, 70 ounces. And this corresponds to 357 square feet. And finish the proportion. I have 11,000 square feet. That should go in the denominator. And that corresponds to X ounces. So if I cross multiply, I get 357 equals 70 times 11,000. And if I divide both sides by 357, X would be equal to 2,157 ounces. So again, this is a proportion formula, proportion problem. Make sure to set up the proportion as ounce over feet squared, cross multiply, divide both sides by 357, and you should end up with the correct answer. All right, let's go to the next question, number 3. Okay, on this problem, as you see, all we have to do, substitute x equals 10 and substitute y equals 16, and then you multiply 7 times 10, you get 70, 2 times 16, 32, then you add 70 plus 32, 102, and divide by 2, you get 51. And that's how I got the 51 here. On number 4, this is an order of operation. And you notice what I did first, the parentheses. I added 5 plus 5, I got 10. My next step, I work inside the brackets, multiplication, addition. I multiply first, 5 times 10, 50. And then again inside the bracket, I add 50 plus 64, that would give me 114. And finally, I multiply by 4, and I get 456. So again, in an order of operation, I would like to simplify the parentheses first. Then inside the brackets you have addition, multiplication. Multiplication goes first. And then you can add inside the brackets and then multiply by 4. On number 5, this is solving a linear equation having fractions. So the best thing to solve this problem is multiply every term by the lowest common denominator, which is 15. That's what I did here. I multiply 15 by every term inside the bracket. If you multiply 15 by 2 over 5, you can just write 15 as 15 over 1. You can multiply straight across, and that would give you 30 over 5x. And then 15 over 1 times negative 1/3 x, that would give you negative 15 over 3. Again, you multiply straight across. And 15 times 2 will give you 30. So now if you simplify 30 over 5, that's 6x. 15 over 3, that's 5x. And 6x minus 5x, that will bring you the x. And that's how you end up with the final answer, x equals 30. So all I did in this problem, simplify the fractions, multiply every term by 15, which is the lowest common denominator. And that would bring me a simple linear equation, 6x minus 5x equals 30. Of course, that would be x equals 30. And number 6. We do the same thing here. The lowest common denominator is 35. So I multiply everything by 35. And if you multiply by 35 the first term, you get 35 over 5, and that would give you 7r. If you multiply the second one by 35, you're going to get 35 over 5 is a 7, and 7 times 6, 42. So here is the show work. So I multiply every term by 35 because the lowest common denominator is 35. On the first one, I get 35 over 5, which will come out to 7r. On the second one, I get 35 times 6 over 5. 35 over 5 is 7, and 7 times 6, 42. So this one should be 42 here. Let me fix it. So again, 35 divided by 5 is 7, and 7 times 6 is 42. Okay, and here we multiply by 35. You get 35 over 7, which is 5. And here 35 divided by 7 is 5, and 5 times 8 is 40. So the only thing we have to fix here is the 42. So we need to subtract both sides 42. And this will give me 2r. And 40 minus 42 will give me negative 2. And negative 2, if I divide both sides by 2, I get negative 1. So that the answer should be negative 1 instead of 2. And that's why it's good always to go over your show work again. See here, 35 divided by 5 is 7. 7 times 6, 42. So when you subtract 42, you get 40 minus 42 is negative 2. And then you have here 2r equals negative 2. If you divide both sides by 2, you get r equals negative 1. And that would be the final answer. Let's go on the next, number 7. Okay, in here what I did is I started by distributing the negative 5 and distributing the negative 2, as you see here. So negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. On this side, I distribute the negative 2. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Now let's combine like terms. 10 minus 15 is negative 5, and bring down the negative 5x. On the right side, 7 minus 12 is negative 5, and then negative 2x. Since I have negative 5 here and negative 5 here, they cancel if I add 5 to both sides. So I end up with negative 5x equals negative 2x. So if I add 2x to both sides, this will cancel. I get a 0. Negative 5x plus 2x is negative 3x. So I'm getting negative 3x equals 0. If I divide both sides by negative 3, then I get x equals 0. So here, if I divide both sides by negative 3, so this will be x, and 0 over negative 3 is 0. So the final answer would be 0. On number 8, we want to solve for c, and I went first. I subtract 32 from both sides. So if you notice, I moved the 32 because we're trying to isolate c. So I get f minus 32 is 9 over 5c. Then I want to get c, so I multiply both sides by 5 over 9. That's what I did here. So I multiplied this by 5 over 9 and this side by 5 over 9, because if you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you end up with 1. So the final answer would be c equals 5 over 9 times f minus 32. So as you notice here, 5 and 5 cancels, 9 and 9 cancels, so you end up with C, and that would be the final answer. C equals 5 over 9 times F minus 32. So moving from this step to this step, I wanted to isolate C, so I multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 9 over 5, which is 5 over 9, and that brings me a C by itself. On the left side, I get the final answer, 5 over 9 into phi F minus 32, parentheses. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is number 9. Solve using the addition and multiplication principle. So as you see, let me show the work here. The very first thing I did, I moved the negative 12x to the right, so I added 12x to both sides. So that would move the negative 12x to the left. I want to move the 7 to the right, so I subtract 7 from both sides. So negative 11x plus 12x will give me the x. These two will cancel. This is greater than or equal. These will cancel. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5, and that would be the final answer. X such that x greater than or equal to negative 5. Number 10. Here we have to find the x and the y intercept. And the first thing to do, if you want to find, let's say, the x intercept, you substitute y equals 0, and you solve for x, and then you divide both sides by 4, and you get x equals 3 over 4. So plug y equals 0, you get 4x equals 3. Divide both sides by 4 here, divide here by 4, and divide here by 4. You get x equals 3 over 4, and that's what the point here. This is the x-intercept 3 over 4. To find the y-intercept, substitute x equals 0. You get 6y equals 3. Divide both sides by 6. Y would be 3 over 6, which is 1/2, and this is the point 5 here. And then you join the 2 points, and that would be the graph. Okay, on number 11, x equals 8 is a vertical line, and you can see here that any point on this line has x equals 8. This point here is 8, 0. This point here is 8, 6. This point here is 8, 10. So that's why x equals 8 will come out to be a vertical line. Okay. Let's go to the next one, number 12. So on number 12, I want to graph the equation using the slope and the y-intercept. So let me see if the show work here. First of all, when you have an equation written in this format, okay, so the y-intercept is 0, negative 2, because what you are doing here is you want to compare this equation to the slope-intercept equation. Y equals mx plus b, where b is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. So b in this case is negative 2, and it's the y-intercept, so that's why I have a negative 2 here. Then negative 6 over 5, I put the minus sign in the numerator. I move from this point down 6. So from this negative 2, if you add 6, you get negative 8. So I move from negative 2 down 6. That will bring me to negative 8. And right 5, because this is a positive 5. So right 5, then I have the point. I join these 2 points. I end up with a line. So the minus 2 is nothing but the y-coordinate of the y-intercept, which is negative 2 here. And minus 6 over 5. From this point, I go down 6. And then right 5. I can go also up 6, left 5. And it will bring me to the same line. Okay, let's go to the next question. Number 13. List the quadrants. So if you check my show work here, I have listed all 4 quadrants with their signs. And 15 is positive, y is negative. Positive and negative, that's going to be quadrant number 4. Quadrant 1 is positive, positive. Quadrant 2, x is negative, y is positive. Quadrant 3, both of them are negative. But since here we have x positive, y negative, that's quadrant 4, and this is for part B. B is the right answer. On number 14, of course, when you look at the terms, how many terms do we have? We have 2 terms. Therefore, this is a binomial. This is a binomial. 3 terms a trinomial, 1 term monomial, and more than 3 terms. In this case, none of these. So in this case, we have 2 terms, so that's a binomial. Number 15. Okay, on number 15, we have x times x to the minus 5. If you add 1 plus negative 5, you get negative 4. See, 1 plus negative 5, because when you multiply, you add the exponent. That's a negative 4. Then you move it to the denominator to make it positive, so you end up with 1 over x to the 4. That would be the final answer. Number 16. When you divide, you subtract the exponents. So negative 8 minus negative 3 would be negative 8 plus 3, that would be negative 5. So negative 8 minus negative 3, that's a negative 8 plus 3, that's a negative 5. Then you move it to the denominator to get a positive exponent, 1 over z to the power 5. How do you change this to scientific notation? You count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first digit is 9, so we have to move the digits 5 digits to the right, 9.7216, and then negative 5, because we moved it to the right. And you know that negative 5 is nothing but you are dividing by 100,000. That's going to make it a very small number. If you put a plus 5, it's going to make it a very big number. So that's why we move the decimal 5 digits. We're going to put negative 5, and that will make it a very small number like the one given here. Number 18. So on number 18, identify the polynomial. Is it a monomial, binomial, trinomial? 1, 2, 3. That's a trinomial. The degree is the highest exponent of s, and the highest exponent of s is 3. So this is the correct answer. 19. We want to multiply. So let's go ahead and multiply. If you multiply negative 4x times negative 10x, negative times negative is positive. 4 times 10 is 40. X times x is x squared. Then negative times negative is positive. 4 times 2, 8x. That's why C is the correct answer. Number 20. We gotta multiply. And here we can start by multiplying 4x times x, which will give me 4x squared. Notice that this is a 1 and this is a 1. So 1 plus 1 will give me 2. 4x times 3 will give me 12x. 7 times x, 7x, and 7 times 3, 21. These are called like terms. That's why we can combine them to 19x, 12 plus 7x, and the others would be the final answer. We cannot do anything about the other 2 terms. So 4x squared plus 19x plus 21 is the final answer. Number 21. How do we square w minus 15? We have to multiply w minus 15 by itself and FOIL it, or just multiply the binomials. So w times w would be w squared. See, we're adding, we have the exponent 1 here and an exponent 1. We add the exponent, we get 2. W times negative 15 is negative 15w, and then negative 15w again, and negative 15 times negative 15 minus times minus is plus 225. These are called like terms. We can combine them since they are like signs, so that would be negative 30w. And then 225 and w squared, that would be the final answer, and that would be option D. W squared minus 30w plus 225. Number 22. Again, we have to square the binomial and we multiply it by itself. And if you do that, you gotta get 5x times 5x, which is 25. Again, we have to add the exponents here. 1 plus 1 is 2. So that's how we got the 25x squared. 5x times negative 2y is negative 10xy, because negative times positive is negative, negative 10xy. Same here, negative 10xy. And then negative 2y times negative 2y. And again, so negative 2y times negative 2y will give me the plus 4y squared. These are called like terms. We can combine them, negative 10 plus negative 10, negative 20xy. And that would be 25x squared minus 20xy plus 4y squared as the final answer. Number 23, we want to divide, so I want to put minus 3x cubed in the denominator and divide each term. So this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to divide this by minus 3x cubed and negative 30x to the power 9 by minus 3. So I split the fractions. Negative divided by negative is positive. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now when you divide exponent notation, you subtract. 15 minus 3 is 12. So that's how we got 3x 12. Same here, negative by negative positive. 30 divided by 3, 10. 9 minus 3, 6. That would be the final answer. 3x 12 plus 10x 6. Number 24, we want to solve. So to solve this equation, we have to distribute the x first. So that's the first thing we need to do. X times x is x squared. You add the exponents. X times negative 1 is negative x. Then you have a minus 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. You get minus 6 equals 0. This will go to 0. Now the product is negative 6 and the sum is negative 1. The two numbers are negative 3 times 2, because the product is negative 6 and the sum is negative 1. So x minus 3, x plus 2. Now if you solve x minus 3 equals to 0, you get x equals 3 because you're going to add 3 to both sides. If you subtract 2 from both sides, you get x equals negative 2. So the final answer is 3 and negative 2, which is D. Let's try number 25. Here we have to factor by grouping. And the common factor here is x squared. The common factor here is 4. So I took x squared as a common factor. I'm left with x minus 6. If you try to distribute here, you get x squared times x, x cubed, x squared times negative 6, negative 6x squared. Here if you take 4 as common factor, you will end up with x minus 6. Again, if you distribute, you get 4x minus 24. Now we have x minus 6 and x minus 6, they're common factors. So you take x minus 6 as a common factor and you are left x squared plus 4, and that would be the final answer. Here we have to solve by factoring. So let's see. We have a 15b squared plus 37b plus 16 equals negative 4. So the first thing I'd like to do here is add 4 to both sides. So if you add 4 to both sides, you will end up with 24, and this is 0. So this is minus 4 here. So now I have 15b squared plus 37b plus 20 equals 0. Notice that 15b squared comes from 3b times 5b. The 20 here will come from 5 times 4. Notice the middle term, which is 3b times 4 is 12b, 5 times 5b, 25b, and if you add those two, you get the 37b. So usually the middle term comes from the sum of the outer plus the inner. And then you can solve each one. 3b plus 5 equals 0. That would give you b equals negative 5 over 3. And 5b plus 4 equals 0. That would give you b equals negative 4 over 5. So basically, when you want to factor, you just look at the first term, you get 3b times 5b. You look at the last term, 5 times 4. Now to confirm this is the correct answer, you have to do the outer plus the inner and get the middle term. Number 27, we have to multiply, and the best way to multiply these rational exponents is by factoring first. Nothing we can do about the x squared. This is difference of two squares, x minus 7, x plus 7. We have the product 35, the sum negative 12, that's a negative 7, negative 5. And here there is a common factor x, so x times x minus 5. So let me try to simplify so to end up with a final answer. We have an x minus 7 and an x minus 7, they cancel. We have an x minus 5, x minus 5. X to the power 1 and x squared, the 2 will cancel with the x, and then we have x over x plus 7. So x squared over x is nothing but x to the power 2 minus 1, and that's why I came up with the x, and then x plus 7 in the denominator, so that would be the final answer, x over x plus 7. 28, also we have to factor before we simplify. Notice that we have a 2x common factor, 12x common factor. That's why I pull out the 2x and I'm left with x minus 1. If you multiply here, 2x times x, you will end up with 2x squared. That will bring you the first term. 2x times negative 1, that will bring you the second term. In the denominator, 12x times x, that would be 12x squared, and 12x times negative 1, negative 12x. So these two will cancel. And then of course x will cancel. 2 by 2 is 1, 12 by 2 is 6. So 1 over 6 is the final answer. On number 29, we got to divide. Also we have to factor first and then simplify. Notice that 6 is a common factor, so I took 6 as a common factor, p minus 1. P, nothing we can do about it. Then I flip the second rational expression, 9p squared goes in the numerator, and then 10 will be a common factor here, 10p minus 10, took 10 as a common factor. Now we're going to simplify. So the p minus 1 cancels with a p minus 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 10 divided by 2 is 5. P and p squared will end up with p. So the final answer is 27p over 5. 27p over 5 is the final answer. Number 30. Here we have to add. And to add these rational expressions, we have to find the lowest common denominator. Between x6 and x, we take x6. Between y and y4, alright, so here between x6 and y4 we have x6. Between x6 and x we have x6. Between y and y4 we have y4. So moving from this denominator to this denominator, we multiply by y cubed. So let's multiply the numerator by y cubed. Moving from this denominator to this denominator, we multiply by x5. So I multiply the numerator by x5, and that would be the final answer. 7y cubed plus 9x5 over x6y4. Here we have the same denominator, so we got to subtract the numerator. If you subtract 2x minus x, you get x, and 4 minus 3, you get 1. So x plus 1. The denominator, the product is 3, the sum is 4. The product is 3, the sum is 4. So 3 and 1. And we can factor x plus 3, x plus 1. And of course, in this case, x plus 1 will cancel. X plus 1 over x plus 1 is 1. X plus 1 over x plus 1 is 1. And would be 1 over x plus 3, the final answer. So notice here the product is 3, the sum is 4. What are the two numbers? 3 times 1 and 3 plus 1. That's why we end up with x plus 3, x plus 1. Here we have 2x minus x, we end up with x, and 4 minus 3 is 1, and then x plus 1 and x plus 1 cancels. So that would be the final answer is 1 over x plus 3. Number 32. How do we simplify these radicals? First of all, 20 can be written as 4 times 5. So this is a perfect square. So this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square. These will come out as a 2 and x, and then 5y will stay inside. Number 33. We have to simplify the radical. Square root of 128 is nothing but 2 times 64. Notice that 64 is a perfect square. So this is a perfect square, will come out as 8. X squared is a perfect square, will come out as x. So 8x square root of 2 is the final answer. Number 34. Here we have x to the power 8 is a perfect square. We have also, this is a perfect square because x4 times x4 is x8. This is also a perfect square because y times y. So this will come out as x4, this will come out as y. Now here the y5 can be written as y4 times y to the power 1 because the sum is 5. This is a perfect square, will come out as y squared. And inside the radical we will have x and y. So now we multiply y times y squared is y cubed. So x4 y cubed square root of xy is the final answer. 35. 49 is a perfect square. So we can simplify the square root of 49 as 7. But we still have the square root of 5. So you can split the radical into two radicals here. 49 over square root of 5. This is a perfect square. It will come out as a 7. Now to rationalize, we got to multiply up and down by square root of 5 because we don't want to change it, which is equal to 1. So multiply straight across, 7 square root of 5. And square root of 5 times square root of 5 is square root of 25, and this is nothing but 5. So that's why the final answer will come out to be 7 square root of 5 over 5. So the steps are, can be simplified to square root of 49 over square root of 5. And square root of 49 is just 7. Now to rationalize, multiply up and down by square root of 5. Straight across. 7 square root of 5. Here you multiply the inside, square root of 25, which is 5. So that would be the final answer, 7 square root of 5 over 5. Number 36. Again, we have to rationalize, except here the 50 is not a perfect square. So we have to simplify the 50 to 25 times 2. Now the 25 will come out as a 5. So this will come out here as 5. Because 25 is a perfect square. The square root of 2 over square root of x. To rationalize, we multiply by the square root of x up and down. Now multiply straight across. Square root of x times square root of x is square root of x squared, which will simplify to x. Here, 5 square root of 2 times square root of x is square root of 2x. And that would be the final answer. 5 square root of 2x over x would be the final answer. Number 37. Here we have to subtract those radicals. We have to make them like radicals first. So the 27 is nothing but 9 times 3. And the 147 is 49 times 3. Now the 9 is a perfect square, will come out as 3. The 49 is a perfect square, will come out as 7. So 5 times 3, 15. 5 times 7, 35. Since these are like signs, we just have to add them. 35 plus 15 is 50 square root of 3 with a negative sign. So negative 15, negative 35 is negative 50, and we have to keep the square root of 3. Number 38. Okay, and we have a triangle. We're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. We have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 12 squared plus b squared equals 20 squared. 12 squared will give me 144, and 20 squared 400. Subtract 144 from both sides. You get b squared equals 256. Therefore, b equals to the square root of 256, which is 16. Number 39. Now we know that 240 inches, how many feet? So what we do here is we write the same 240 inch, but then you know that 1 foot equals 12 inch. So you put the 12 inch in the denominator, that way the inches will cancel and your final answer will come out in feet. So that's a good way to change the units. Again, you rewrite the same number, but now you multiply by the ratio. 1 foot equals 12 inches. You put the 12 inches in the denominator, that way the inches and the inches will cancel, and the final answer is in feet. And 240 divided by 12 is 20 feet. Number 40. Okay, here we have 2r cubed. Power to power we multiply, 5 times 3, 15. Power to power we multiply, 5 times 2, 10. Multiplying we add, 3 plus 15, 18. Now we subtract, when we divide, 18 minus 10 is 8. So 2/3 r to the power 8, final answer. Number 41. Absolute value of negative 19 is 19. 9 plus 19, 28, and 28 plus 19 is 47. Let me show you work here. So the absolute value of negative 19 is positive 19. Absolute value of 19 plus 9, we add the inside first, that's 28. Absolute value of 28 will stay 28. And 28 plus 19 is 47, and that's the final answer. Here we have to simplify this order of operation. Now, as you see, I started by simplifying the parentheses. 9 minus 5 is 4, and 6 minus 4 is 2. So the first step is just simplify the parentheses. 9 minus 5 is 4, 6 minus 4 is 2. The second step, I can add inside the square brackets. 8 plus 4 is 12. There's a minus sign here. There's a minus sign here. Now 2 times 2 times 2 is 4, is 8. 2 times 2, 4 times 2, 8, so that's 8. So again, I simplify the square bracket. 8 plus 4 is 12, and 2 to the power 3 is 8. Make sure you have the same signs. Now notice here, 24 minus 12 is 12, and 12 minus 8 is 4. So I simplify first 24 minus 12, and I keep the minus 8. 12 minus 8 is 4, and that would be the final answer. Number 43. Here we have to substitute x equals 7 and y equals 9. So that's what we did. 3 times 7, 21. 2 times 9, 18. And then 7 plus 12, 19. 21 minus 18 is 3, and 3 over 19 would be the final answer. Number 44. Well, this is not an associative property. An associative property would be something like A plus B plus C equals A plus B plus C. This is associative property. Commutative property would be A plus B equals B plus A. Distributive property would be A into 2 plus B equals 2A plus AB. You just distribute the A. So the only way which is good in this case is 0 is the identity element for addition, because 6 plus 0 is 6. That would be the answer. Number 45. Here we have to solve a linear equation, and we have some parentheses that we need to simplify first. X minus 7, we can remove the parentheses, but here there is a minus sign. We need to distribute the minus sign. So minus 8 minus x equals 8x. So this x and this x will cancel. And negative 7, negative 8 is negative 15 equals 8x. To solve for x, divide both sides by 8. That would be the final answer. X equals negative 15 over 8 would be the final answer. Number 46. Give the coefficient and degree of the term. The degree is the highest exponent of z is 1. The coefficient is negative 3. So negative 3 and 1 is the final answer. So here again the coefficient is negative 3 and the degree of the term is 1. So minus 3, 1 would be the final answer. 47. Here we have to add these fractions. And the first thing we can do here is find the lowest common denominator, which is 16. So I change this fraction to a 16 denominator by multiplying up and down by 4. So I get 12 over 16. Now minus minus makes it plus, so plus 11 over 16. To change this to 16, multiply up and down by 8, so that's 8 over 16. And to change this to 16, multiply up and down by 2, that would be 10 over 16. So everything is positive except the last term, so we can add 12 plus 11, 23 plus 8, 31. 31 minus 10, 21 over 16, final answer. Number 48. Okay, here we have to use the rules of exponents. Power to power we multiply. So if you start by multiplying, you have 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. 6 times negative 3, negative 18. Negative 4 times negative 3 plus 12. Negative 1 times negative 3 plus 3. Now notice that there is nothing with the same base, so we cannot combine anything here. Just put these in the denominator. So W12, Z3 will stay in the numerator. These will go in the denominator, x cubed, y18, so we can change them to positive exponent. So that would be the final answer, W12, Z3 over x cubed, y18. Again, just to confirm, W12, z cubed over x cubed y18. Number 49. Again, we have here absolute value. Always a negative number will change to a positive. So absolute value of negative 7 is plus 7. 6 plus 3, 9. Absolute value of 9 is 9. And then divided by 2. 7 plus 9, 16. Divided by 2 is 8. So 8 would be the final answer. And number 50. We're changing kilometer to miles, so I do the same thing I did before. I rewrite the number 1244.678 as equal to 1244.6. Now I have kilometers. I know that 1 mile is 1.609 kilometer. So since I want to cancel the kilometer, I put the kilometer in the denominator and the miles in the numerator. So here we have the kilometer will cancel with the kilometer, so all we have to do is divide those two numbers. We end up with 773.572 miles, and this, they want the answer to the nearest thousand, so 3 digits after the decimal, and that's it. Okay, so hope that helped. Good luck.